So now we will be focusing on lesson 2, part C. This part is about how we can build a shared understanding among the team members and the stakeholders. So to build a shared understanding of stakeholders, actually we have to keep in mind many issues. Among them, we have to seek consensus among the team members, among the stakeholders. So we should focus on what is the value of the business, what is the value of the project. So we should demonstrate the leadership behavior. So we should focus on the charter of the project, vision of the project, so that every stakeholder is known to the charter, to the vision. So in this way, we can actually internalize the vision and mission of the project. So we can have a ownership, feeling of ownership to the common goal. So the guidelines we can share, we can agree each other, we can negotiate, we can make agreements between the stakeholders, and we can uphold these agreements in our action and behavior. So we should have a vision, clear objectives. We must have a business case and business understanding. So each stakeholder should know the charter of the project, the vision of the project, business case, feasibility of the project. Is there any kind of cost benefit analysis? Is it positive or negative? So this should be known to the each of the stakeholders. So for the holistic understanding, we can do negotiation, and when we negotiate each other, we should know the boundaries of negotiation. We can also uh, do a critical thinking, critical analysis among the stakeholders. So this way, stakeholders can share their understanding, their thinking. They can share each other the existing agreements, the contracts, and what will be the memorandum of understanding, what will be the service level agreement, uh, the agreement verbal or written. So, and what will be the statement of work and the emails. So all sort of things should be available to the stakeholders so that stakeholders can understand actually how they can find the benefits from this project, and they how they can be the part of this. So each of the stakeholder should internalize the vision, mission, charter of the project, and all the agreements, so that everyone goes in the same path. We all have a common shared goals and purpose. So they should know the key performance indicators. We should negotiate, talk with each other, and we should be agreed on the project success criteria, how we can go to the last goal of the project. So we can interview the stakeholders what they know and what they want, and we can make expert judgment so the experts can share their views to the audiences of stakeholders, and we can also share the lesson learned from the historical data previous similar project. We also publish the reports, and we also can have a set of reporting and verification criteria so that people can understand. And we must define the definition of done, DUD, so that everything is crystal clear to the audience and to the team what should be achieved after the project. So understand the vision. Everyone can make some kind of exercise like product box exercise. For example, if you think that I'm a customer, if you give me a product and I'm reviewing about this product, what I have liked, what I want more, what feature already mixed. So as a customer point of view, when I give a feedback, this is called product box exercise. So this kind of exercise can enhance the relationship between the stakeholders. And then we can do XP metaphor. That means we can explain the complex thing in a simple manner. We can use some kind of metaphor, we can use other kind of examples, analogies, so that people can understand easily. I mean, to make the stakeholders everything crystal clear is our purpose. So as a project team or project manager, they should try to make everything clear to the stakeholders through product box exercising or XP metaphor. And this will help to make everything clear to the stakeholders. And what is project charter? Project charter actually, it should be authorized by the approval of the proper authority, and it enables the project manager to apply resources to work. And it verifies alignment with the strategic goals. So project has strategic goals. The project charter is the connection to the strategic goals. So what are the contents of this project charter? Project charter has a name. Project chart, there will be a project description in the project charter. Business need, why we should do this project, what will be the benefit, and the schedule of the project, the deliverables of the project, the business case, cost and benefit analysis should be there. The risk and constraints what we have to face in this project, that also should be in the project charter. So the project charter includes name of the project, project description, deliverables, business case, schedule, risk, and constraints. And now the kickoff meeting. What is kickoff meeting? When everything ready to start the project, so they actually do the kickoff meeting. From this, what is the purpose? The context established. Every stakeholders are coming. All the stakeholders are coming to the kickoff meeting. So the context is established here. It assists the team what will be done, and everyone is aligned with the vision through this kickoff meeting. And it can be organizational or public, from which it announced the initiation of the project, the beginning of the project, what we call inaugural ceremony. We can identify the sponsor, who is sponsoring, who is giving the money, and we can identify the key stakeholders and project manager, and we can share the values, vision, mission of this project through this kickoff meeting. And this can be internal and in the with the team. From the kickoff meeting, charter overview is given, and it clarify the team rules, what rules will be played by the team, and the present product roadmap, what will be the product roadmap, the features of the product, and how it will be developed, and in what time, that are discussed here. So it is the initiation of the product roadmap and project roadmap. Now we'll focus on the D, part D of lesson 2. So project approach, understanding how and why approaches differ, because changing perceptions are there, values and sustainability are also different, and there are complexity and risks are there. So what kind of project you are going to have, it depends on the people you are working with. What is your purpose, vision, also it differs project to project. That's why you have to fix based on your product nature, project nature. You have to fix either it is a predictive or adaptive approach, and based on the necessity you can tailor the development approach. It can be hybrid too. So dynamic work environment are there, value delivery requirements are different, servant leaders also has a role. So based on this we can make tailor development approach. So project development approach, what are the features? It can be plan driven like predictive, it can be change driven like adaptive. It can be certainly about requirements. So in the predictive, the requirements are high, but in the certainty is very high, but in the adaptive, certainty is unclear. And change and risk, in the predictive is to change very risky, but in the adaptive, it's slow. So now we'll give the product, what we call product life cycle. Product life cycle has 5 steps: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. So at the beginning, we introduce a product when it comes to the market, but after a certain time, it growth is happening, it's growing. At the one time, it actually maturity happens. Then again, it declines. So the graph is like this way. So initially, then growth, then mature point, then come down, decline, and lastly decay. So like human being, project also has a certain time. It cannot be for the long term. So this way it works. The product life cycle, project life cycle. Similarly, introduction, growth, maturity, decline, and decay. Okay, so now we'll be focusing on the life cycle and development approach. So we have predictive, incremental, iterative, and agile. So this slide actually I'm showing you with a figure. For example, this here you see the cursor in the slide. So we have in the bottom what we call horizontal degree of change, and in the vertical side we have frequency of delivery. So when the degree of change is low and frequency of delivery also low, so it is predictive, because in predictive only one delivery, no frequency, and there is no option of change actually. If you change, it takes huge resources. So degree of change low, frequency of delivery low. That's why it's called predictive. But when you have the frequency of delivery high, but the degree of change is low, we call it incremental. So you have to deliver the product incrementally. So once you give a delivery, you get feedback, then you give another part of delivery. So it's incremental process. On the other hand, degree of change is high and frequency delivery also high. Both are high. That called agile. So delivery also high and degree of change also high. So that's called agile approach. And when the frequency of delivery is low, but degree of change is high and frequency of delivery is low, we call it iterative. So that means in the iterative process, first you have idea, then you get the feedback from the audience, then you give another version of the product, then you give another feedback, again change. So each time you can change it. So that's why it's called iterative process. When you have incremental and iterative both facilities, then we call it agile. So in the predictive system, we have first we do the feasibility study, then we design a project or product, then we build it, then we test it, and then deploy and we close the project. This is the normal traditional predictive approach project: feasibility, design, build, test, deploy, and close. And in the agile approach, actually we have a initial project and product vision. We described it through stories and epic. Then at the iteration one, first round, we have a minimum viable product. Then we get the feedback. So that comes to the backlog. And so we change our product. Again, we work on it. Iteration two, and again we get the feedback, backlog prioritization, and after the feedback you have to implement it, and you get the iteration 3, and again. So it can happen again and again until you get the final finished product that is satisfy the customers. So it can happen many times. So we do not know the exact product at the beginning. So each time it actually changing, and until the product can satisfy the customer, we will be working on it. That's why it's called change driven It's called agile approach. It happens iterative in the iterative process with the changes each time. And now we'll be focusing adaptive development approach. This one we can show in a figure here. You see that at the beginning we have a product backlog, and from this point we have minimum viable product. We can use the user stories. Based on the user stories, we can work on it. So teamworks are happening there, so we deliver to it. So they are not satisfied, so they give the stories and backlog again to the product owner. Product owner gives explain user stories, and we got the minimum viable product. Go to the team works there and deliver it. Again, it is not satisfied, so it will go this way. So as long as we are not finding the definition of done met, I mean customer is satisfied or product owner is satisfied, this process will be happening again and again. That's why it is called iterative process. It can be time boxed with a fixed time, specific time. It can be happen within a cadence, step by step. So this cadence will happen again and again, again and again. So each time they get some feedback, go to the product backlog. So product owner explain the user stories to the team, and team define the minimum viable product. They work on it and they deliver to the customer. Customer is not happy, they give an again feedback. So you got the product backlog. This way it actually happens again and again. So what can be tailored? If you want to tailor mix approach or based on the necessity, you actually change your product. In this case, first, actually life cycle can be tailored. It can be predictive or change driven or mixed. Development life cycle components can be tailored. Ways of working, the process can be tailored. Knowledge management can be tailored. Project governance, how it will be governed, that can be tailored. And benefits management also can be tailored. And finally, mm, the final one, you see project approach, how it works actually. This figure is clear to you. I think if I can explain it. Uh, Close to agreement. You see in the slide, close to agreement, this one. So this is capability and this is requirements. So if you have less requirements, it's close to agreement. If you have less technical capacity, so it's simple, very simple. So this is linear approaches work well there. So you need not to think more about anything, because everyone is agreed on everything and there is not much technical capability. But as long as technical capacity increases, as long as the agreement go to the far from the agreement, I mean disagreement are there, so it becomes complicated, it becomes complex. So even if it's complicated or complex, it can be worked. So we use here the adaptive approach work well here. We can make a change driven approach. But when actually this far from agreement, last point, or far from the capability, it is chaos. In this point, actually fundamentally risky. We should not implement the project. But until it is complex and complicated, it can be it can be implemented, but with a change driven approach. But if it's simple, we can have a predictive approach project. We can use the predictive approach. That's all. So thank you so much. It's the last slide of lesson 2.